Hey Cinders, welcome back to Chicken Cindy's. We're going to take a closer look at this Ozark Trail at some of the components, and we're going to talk because this video has gotten some interesting comments. Hey everybody and welcome. I'm Joshua, and if this is your first time here, welcome. We kind of talk about all things bike related. So, here lately, the video I just posted, I think 2 weeks ago, has actually been getting quite a bit of good foot traffic, positively and negatively. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. But I kind of want to give like a review of this Ozark Trail, and that I've had it for a couple weeks, almost a month, gotten quite a few rides on it, and just kind of give you my overall impression of the bike itself. So let's dive right into it. The first thing I would like to talk about is the drivetrain overall. So it has a freewheel in the back. You have some decent options in upgrading that if you're wanting to do that down the road. There's not a ton of freewheel options, but some people have asked, and this is not a Shimano HG. This is not that style. This is a freewheel. So it's the kind that bolts on, basically. It's kind of wonky. It's older styled. It still absolutely works fine. The front 2x, I'm thinking this has some pretty significant weight in it. I was just looking at it, and it looks like it's almost just stamped out. And overall, this bike is a little heavy. It's 36 pounds for the medium-sized frame, the 50. And there were quite a few comments. I shouldn't say quite a few, but there were some comments kind of basically dogging the weight of the bike. And, it's like one of those things for me. At $250, I just feel like it's negligible, in my opinion. I mean, I don't necessarily like the term weight weenies in a sense, but I mean, it's 36 pounds. It is what it is. It's $250. There's going to be some pretty good ways to save weight, in my opinion. Even switching the whole style of the square taper bottom bracket to like an external bearing style. I mean, I bet you'd probably save a pound there, if not a little bit more. And if you guys watched the video that I posted 2 weeks ago, I think, saved half a pound just by switching the seat post and the saddle. But just overall, the drivetrain in itself, I think, functions fine. Some people I've seen complaining about just the kind of the climbing gear, the biggest climbing gear you can get to. And I noticed that on the single track trails, there were a couple climbs that were difficult. I stood up and just kind of crunched through it. Primarily on the road and stuff like that. I mean, I think you'll be fine. Some pretty steep climbs will be just a little difficult, I'd imagine. But I mean, again, I'm not trying to give this bike a pass because of the price, but you need to keep in mind the price. I mean, you're not going to get a perfect bike at the price. You're going to get a functioning bike that's decent. So another thing that I've noticed are the brakes themselves. I'm still going to calibrate them a little bit because I just feel like the actual, the pull to grab is just a little longer distance travel to actually get them to bite than I like. So I'm going to mess with that a little bit. Before I really get into that, I think I'm going to get different brake pads. They still stop me and they seem okay. They're noisy. I'm thinking it's a brake pad material thing. So I'm going to try that and see if that'll help with that. But for the brakes, I mean, they function, they stop me, they're fine, they're brakes. I mean, as long as you're not getting yourself into super sketchy situations, you should be absolutely fine. For the saddle and the new seat post, they have been absolutely terrific. I said it in the last video, I did not care for the stock saddle. It's funny how many comments were basically along the same lines that he did not like the saddle either. This tan one looks great on this bike, and I will say that I think it's much more comfortable than the stock saddle. So I definitely think this was a super good move, and I think it was the right decision, especially for the price. So if you don't like the saddle, definitely switch out the saddle. A thing to keep in mind is, even though this is a budget bike, I've said it many times before, if you're looking into doing upgrades to your bike, the money that you're going to spend best in upgrades are contact points, as in any part that your body touches, pedals, saddles, grips. For this would be bar tape, for instance. But I mean, those are the main things that I would tell you that's okay to spend money on a budget bike, because if your body doesn't like where it's touching, the bike ride itself is just not going to be enjoyable. Speaking of contact points, I really like this bar tape. I think it feels great. I have no complaints there. The hoods themselves, as I'm riding and stuff, overall, I think the comfortability of these handlebars and stuff are actually pretty impressive. And I really like how they just have like a slightly reflective look. I don't know if the light will pick that up for you, but they're very, very cool and unique. I really want to touch on these tires. I am actually really impressed with these tires. For just being stock Kendas on this bike, I really think they're fine. I didn't really feel much rolling resistance when I was on the road. Of course, you're not going to be as nice as a form of like legit road tire, but you could put those on there if that's what you want this bike to be. If you want it to be more of just an actual road bike, I would just get something that has less tread or a more compact, tight tread. But overall, I mean, like when I had this on the trail, I feel like it was gripping really nice. And I mean, the tan walls look terrific on this green bike. I mean, just the brown and green look terrific. I think it's such a nice just color combination, and they are very nice tires. I have really like no complaints over the tires there. So for these stock tires, if that's something you're concerned about, you should be absolutely fine. I've had a lot of comments over the fit, okay? So as mentioned, I am 5 foot 10 inches with a 32-inch inseam, and this 50 fits me terrific. I think it absolutely is a terrific fit and feel. I was a little concerned about the stem. Just overall, like it's literally about perfect for me. The main question is, should I go with the 44 or the 50? And like, sadly, I can't really answer that for you. I can tell you like specification-wise what's recommended, but unless you get on the bike itself and try it, I just cannot, you know, I can give you a semi, you know, sort of answer, but until you get on it, you may hate it. You know, if you're 6'1", you may like this and maybe it's not super cramped for you, but everybody's body is different. So if you can try one in store and see, I mean, that's gonna be your best bet. But the good thing is, since it is Walmart, if you put it together and you really don't like it, you can always return it. Just keep a hold of the receipt and all that fun stuff. But sadly, that is such a hard one because everybody's different. So 5 foot 10 inches, 36-inch inseam, the 50, which is technically the medium, fits me great. I'm very pleased with the way this fit and feels. I'm gonna get into a really weird segment here and try to like pick specifically who this bike is for, okay? I feel like a lot of people who are watching these YouTube videos and tutorials and just everything on this bike are pretty on the line over what they want to do or not do. Is this a decent bike to purchase and upgrade? Yes, to an extent though. You're getting to the point to where, like, let's say you want to put like even just a micro shift clutch derailleur on here and you want to switch to a Shimano HG styled cassette. You're looking at a couple $100 just to purchase the items and to get the new rear wheel. I mean, and then once you do that, like you're to $400 or $500, you're already in the territory of maybe looking at a Poseidon as opposed, which I have a Poseidon Flat Bar X, so similar to this bike, but a flat handlebar instead of the actual drop bars. And I mean, it works terrific, and I'm very happy with that bike. It's so hard because you have the gravel bike community who, you know, sometimes get a little offended over, you know, like how much you spend or don't spend on a bike. Gravel bikes get super expensive. I had a gentleman in my last video who commented about this bike being about the 10th the price of a gravel bike, which you could easily get to a $2,500 gravel bike. And, you know, it's just talking about how big of a difference is it really when you get to that expensive. And in my opinion, there's definitely a diminishing return in anything bicycle related. When you get to like, you know, the $2,000 to $3,000 mark of a bike compared to like a $6,000 or $7,000 bike, I mean, you're now talking like such like micro benefits in the sense of like weight savings, carbon fiber, things like that. It's just really hard for a lot of people to justify. So when you look at this bike at $250, it is better than the sum of its parts. But this bike, for me, is something that like for myself, a mountain biker will use to train on. This is for, I live in Illinois when the trails are closed. I can take this on, you know, the road, or I can take this on the bike path and things like that to get miles, work on endurance, work on just, you know, just overall health and wellness benefits. That's what this bike is perfect for. I touched on it a second ago, but I mean, you could absolutely upgrade this bike if you want to. I just don't think that you should. I'm not saying don't. I mean, it's your money, and if you want to spend it on upgrading this bike, absolutely go for it. Now, I am going to be upgrading this bike over time just because I'd like to. I just like doing that kind of stuff on this channel, but I've decided the way I'm going to do this is try to be as, in a sense, cost-effective versus like benefits as possible. It's going to be a good mixture of you know, budget-friendly parts, but also weight savings parts. So I'm definitely excited to do that just to see what's going on with this bike. The couple times I've rode it, I mean, the 36 pounds did not bother me at all. It was fine. I guess if you want to complain about that, you can. But again, I mean, it's a $250 bike. They had to cut corners somewhere, so of course it's going to be a little heavier. I mean, between the freewheel in the back, you have the square taper bottom bracket up front, that kind of a situation. I mean, there's definitely ways to save weight on this. But I mean, that seems to be one of the biggest complaints people have over this bike. But I mean, once you start going, like unless you're setting, you know, KOMs and things like that, I don't know, like, who cares, I guess. I'm not trying to be harsh, but it's just like, it is what it is. It's a $250 bike. So that's one person I think this bike is for. The other person I think this bike is perfect for is someone who's just getting into gravel biking or wants to potentially try it before they take a huge dive or, you know, into it and spend a bunch of money on a bike. Get this bike for $250, switch a saddle out, you're up to about maybe $300 tops if you get a budget saddle. I got the pins, they're about, or the flat pedals, they're about $20. I mean, I'm right around $320 into this bicycle total. And I mean, there's really, like, if this was my primary bike, there's nothing else I'd really change on it. I think it's absolutely fine for what it is. Overall, I just feel like this bike at the price is really a good bargain. It's a good purchase, it's a good buy. If you're not in the categories that I mentioned, if you're just looking to want another option to ride on the road and not use your mountain bike, I think this is a great option for that. And I do think that this bike being $250, if you were to go and sell this on the secondhand market, you're not really going to be out a ton of money. Whereas like if you bought a $1,500 to $2,000 gravel bike, trying to sell that on the used market right now, I mean, you're probably going to lose quite a bit of money, if not more than double what you would have paid for one of these. So I could be wrong there, but just looking at used bikes online and things like that and what they cost new compared to used, it's just, man, you can get new bikes for 30 to 40% off all day right now. And that's obviously hurting the used market by quite a bit. So it is what it is at the end of the day there. So overall opinion on this bike though, I think if you have $250 and you're looking to get into gravel biking or just another option, I think this is an absolute banger of a deal. I mean, I think it's great. Feel free to disagree with me. It's just my opinion and we all have different opinions. But I mean, if you're looking for a video to say, hey, I want to try this bike, by all means do it. And one of the really nice things about this bike, and I'm not trying to be weird about it, is the fact it's from Walmart. If you buy this bike and you really don't like it, just return it. I mean, there's so many bikes you have to send back and in the box and stuff for like their 30-day trial periods and things like that. I just really love the aspect of the fact that you can buy this bike, ride it for a day, and you're just like, man, it doesn't fit me. Man, I just don't like it. Hey, these drop bars are not for me. Take it back, you know? I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day in that situation. The only other thing that I would really recommend on this bike is if you do purchase this bike from Walmart, double check the bolts. You know, just go over the bike itself, make sure, you know, the quick release skewers are on tight and things are there. Adjust your brake calipers and stuff to make sure rotors aren't touching and things like that. It's all pretty decently easy stuff to do. But the last thing you want to do is purchase a bike from Walmart and something not be, you know, torqued appropriately or not tightened right. So it's just one of those things that, you know, sadly at Walmart in this situation, if you pull a bike off the rack, they're not necessarily put together by professionals. So either, you know, take it onto yourself to watch some, you know, park tool videos, or even take it to a local bike shop and have them do it. And, you know, it's up to you and your comfortability and working on and fixing bikes. So just kind of a real quick PSA in the sense of this bike. But no, any upgrades specifically you'd like me to do to this bike, please put them down in the comments. Any questions you'd like to know over this bike, please put them down in the comments as well. But hopefully this video has enlightened you a little bit over, you know, this bike and the price and, you know, what to kind of expect in the sense of purchasing this bike. But at $250, you should get a functioning bike that shifts well and rides okay. I mean, for $250, I got exactly what I expected. So if you're expecting a speed rocket gravel bike kind of a situation, this isn't it. Spend some more money. But thank you everybody for tuning in. I appreciate you all and take care. Until next time.